Welcome to the Lava channel. Thank you for being here. Here we go. It's a market take on Friday, 14th of July, 2023. I want to cover a few things here because the MMRI has come down to 234.5 as I'm doing this. And right now we've got the US markets are going green and pumping. We just had the bank earnings coming in, and JP Morgan, Citibank, and Wells Fargo basically reporting better than expected. So this is a headline driven rally that is continuing basically off of yesterday. Bulls are in control for now, and we need to trade what is in front of us. Yesterday did have a gap up, and on the SPY, it popped to 450, still going green. This is on the 1 hour. And this is a very headline driven market. So we want to be very careful here. But I do expect that we will continue probably more bullish on what is expected to be a mostly muted day. We do get consumer sentiment in at 10 a.m. today, so we'll watch for that. I'm expecting also to kind of tame this market down. They will use that as kind of cold water to throw on this because I'm not expecting the consumer sentiment to come out very well. More importantly than the numbers, we know the data is all fake and they cook the numbers, but it's the language they use around it. So even if they use real numbers, if it comes out better than expected or that type of nature or that it doesn't quite hit their marks, they can affect it that way with their language. So on the back of this consumer sentiment, we are expecting, Reuters did this, it took an analyst to see that a tumbling US dollar would push risk assets up in price. So, I mean, this is kind of normal. You're going to have your dollar going to no value, and you may as well be burning it. You want to get it as soon as possible into anything that could possibly have value. And people are basically gambling. We've got a lot of retail traders that are jumping back into the markets, expecting the run up that happened after the COVID boom. And right now we are having what I think is melt up phase. It's one of the final phases before the correction. We'll see what happens. This is an article from Market Watch. I saw this morning that they're saying nothing in the data shows prices crash. They're referring to a housing market. But I think there's going to be more to this. I want to talk about this really quickly. They're Airbnbs. I think we're doing a reverse of the spin up that happened after the pandemic boom. What happened? Housing blew up, and then cars got really expensive. Used cars got really expensive and out of control. We had some spikes in lumber and other prices. And now, as it's coming down, we're in a reverse spiral attempt to keep the crash from being severe. So this just hasn't shown up in here yet, the sticky inflation that they're talking about. This is another article about Apollo's chief economist. He's talking about the default cycle beginning. And this is people that are not going to be paying their credit cards, not going to be paying. The unsecured debt will go first because they have nothing to lose. And this is just beginning. So we've got another person saying why we're having all of these good numbers and good markets are because the YOLO, you only live once, spenders are propping up the economy. And I agree with him. I think that, well, in a way, people are taking more travel because they've been cooped up for so long. But in general, they're charging under the credit cards that they have no intention whatsoever of paying off. Another article that is before we get the sentiment number, a spike in homelessness in different US cities. This Bloomberg article, they're talking about how it's not coming down, but we're not supposed to look at this data or believe these numbers. We're supposed to believe what it is that they're telling us, that we don't have to have a crash. Things are just going to be fine. This was another article, and it's talking about the purchases that people are making. Now, they're not even, when they're talking about trading down on groceries, basically they're talking about purchasing either the less expensive brands. Used to have generic brands that were a little cheaper, dollar stores, but now they're saying people are just buying less food. And that is an alarming sign to me. So, on the back of this, we know that this has to reverse. We're talking about China. They found a main weapon in the tech war with the US. They're talking about chiplets. And this is actually kind of an exciting new technology, except that the way that it's coming out is that China made the move early on and they purchased the rights to this. They bought the patents in 2021 from a company called Ziegler, was a US company, but it's a workaround for the wafer production restrictions that they are under. They cannot make full silicon chip wafers, but they can make these chiplets, which are basically smaller versions. And TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors, has a design for these. So this is kind of a smaller stock play for those that are paying attention to this and TSMC. Another one is that I wanted to mention is Coinbase because they did start with that XRP. They're going to be bringing it back and trading with that again in the cryptocurrency area. Another one to watch with this, in my mind, a little longer term, is Palantir. Ticker is PLTR. It's a security software. And I'm recommending this one. This is not financial advice. I'm recommending this for a watch on two things, not only on the artificial intelligence, but also on war, because Palantir is one of the ones that is doing a lot of work with the Department of Defense. We've also got to keep an eye on energy, crude prices. So this is it's the lifeblood of the military industrial complex, and it needs to feed. So I've got a few more stories I want to bring up before this market opens. This is going on long, and I want to keep it short enough. But aside from the tech war that we're in, the currency war that we're starting, we've got a few things going on now. Russian Navy ships sailing into Havana off of Cuba, which is not very far from the Florida coast. So uh, I think there's a lot more going on in the background to this. Maybe I'll cover this later, but I just wanted to bring this up this morning. And then on the back of that, a Russian warship can sit there, but Cuba is calling the presence of a nuclear powered submarine at Guantanamo Bay is a provocation. So we can see there's a few geopolitical changes going on here. So we've got to watch these headlines because they do have a very definite effect on this market. Okay, China. This is another story. They're opposing NATO's move into Asia Pacific region because basically we're looking at Taiwan again, area that is disputed over China. I want to bring up again Russia. There's one other thing that they were talking about Wagner. If you're not familiar with him, the basically Russian insurrection, and he's still on the border. I think he was placed there purposefully. And I think the whole thing was a guise, but we've got to watch what happens along with this. So, this, in my mind, another article, North Korea decided to test an ICBM, stands for an intercontinental ballistic missile. And so basically what they're getting at, they launched one towards Japan, kind of being North Korea, and Kim Jong-un is, being the boy dictator he is. And so I'm probably going to lose a bajillion points my social score on that one. However, they are launching these ICBMs to prove that they can. And the real threat, if any, would not come from Russia in a nuclear sense, but rather possibly from either Iran or North Korea, because they're playing the power games without a full understanding of what would tick off nuclear war and how it could end up. So that's pretty much the things that I have for you this morning, other than on the war front, Biden has informed Congress that he's authorized the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security to order members of the selected reserve and basically National Guard, individual ready reserve, to active duty without consenting Congress. So he wants to send them over to support Operation Atlantic Resolve over in Europe, United States European Command. So we'll keep an eye on that today. I will not be doing a live stream today. I need to work on some technical side of that, get a little better with a few things. But I will do a short wrap for the weekend. Thank you all for being here. Please hit the like if you're so inclined. And I need to wrap this up with that. I'm going to wish you all a green trading day, and I'll see you in the next one.